everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. I'm here with my special guest, Michaela, the real deal IEL from Twitter of Time, and we're here to do a parent's guide for episode 5, Blood Calls Blood, of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So like the other parent's guides, what we'll do first is we'll do a spoiler-free section where we talk about the show in very general terms, without spoiling anything for you if you haven't watched it just yet. And then after that, we'll give a spoiler warning and dive right into specific examples from the episode and talk just a bit about our thoughts on this. Now, again, before we start, I do want to mention that this isn't a comment on anyone's parenting or anything. It's just a way to get information out there so you know what's in the episode so you can make your own decisions on what your children can watch. All right, so spoiler-free section first. So we're going to go with I think it's right near the first of the episode. If you want to take off of this. It was a little, I think this was, for me at least, one of the most disturbing scenes of the entire series so far.
Yes, I agree. And it's not necessarily so much violence, right? We're not talking about gore. We're not talking about, extensive violence. I would say thematically, this episode is dark. It's heavy. I'd say if I could describe it in one word, it would be heavy. So in terms of emotional things that occur in the episode, that's something to be aware of. It may prompt some conversations that you haven't yet had with your children regarding death and certain themes. There are some violations that occur. They're not sexual in nature, but they are disturbing. So be advised that there is definitely some uncomfortable scenes to witness and to watch.
So we have the uncomfortable scene. We do have a lot of scenes that deal with loss during this episode as well. So there's a lot of grief, and there's a lot of so if you haven't had conversations about death or suicide yet, those are things that definitely happen within this episode, and they're very prevalent. The whole core of the episode is around that. And there's also a scene that involves torture, so there is some physical violence in it, and it's not so much, like you said, gory or super horrifying. It's just the implications of what's being done, and the person is helpless, that makes it absolutely horrifying, to me at least anyway.
I totally agree. It's very disturbing. Once again, very heavy. It's not, no shock value horror, no jump scares, but very, very heavy stuff, emotionally mature stuff that we haven't seen, I don't think, to this degree up until this episode. No,
and I think there may be more of this to come, considering where this fits into the episode, which we'll get into the spoiler section. So again, just to recap, this is just a quick guide here. You're looking at a violation scene within the first bit of the episode that basically violates someone's their core emotional
bodily autonomy.
The best way to put it. There's no rape, but it is still in that vein. There is a torture scene within the first little bit, also during that particular scene. It's those two characters together. There's a little bit of blood, but it's more the build-up and the anticipation of it than what you actually see on screen. And then there is a lot of loss, a lot of talk about death, a lot of talk about what would happen, and then there is a suicide. You don't witness it on screen, but you get to witness the aftermath and what happens to everyone else.
Yes, and it's very sad. It's very, very, very sad.
Very much so. All right, so that's the spoiler-free version. So if you folks haven't seen the episode yet, feel free to dip out. I'm going to dive right into spoilers. We'll give specific examples, and we're going to talk about our thoughts on each of the scenes. So, spoiler warning. For the rest of the video, we're going to talk about episode 5, Blood Calls Blood. So if you haven't seen that particular episode from Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time series, or if you haven't read at least the first 2 books of the Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, that's The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt, be forewarned, we'll probably ruin some things from both of those. All right, so now we're in the spoiler section. We're going to talk about the scenes in very specific detail and give our thoughts on them. So the very first scene that we talked about, the violation, do you want to give your thoughts on that one?
Well, first of all, I really appreciate that Wheel of Time is not delving into rape as a plot point and as a plot device. And obviously, there are some sexual, there are some rapes that occur in the book, but they're alluded to. They are not described. They are not heavy content in terms of theming in the books, thank God. I am so sick and tired of rape as shock plot device and as a way to vilify people. Get more creative, please. You don't rape and abuse women to show us that someone is bad. So here is a perfect case in point, an example of how they can do that without having a sexual violence occur. And it is, of course, a autonomous violation. As
100%.
Horrifying. I'm not saying it's not awful, but I was so glad it wasn't rape.
Yes, and I mean, it is still, in my opinion, I watched it. I was very uncomfortable. I watched it with my 3 girls, And I kind of got the side eye from them because they were like, what's going on here? And I'm like, it's okay. I watched it first. It's fine. It's uncomfortable, but again, no rape, no nudity whatsoever, but just the fact that the Egwene, because it's spoiler section, we talk about it, is completely powerless, and they can do whatever they want to her. And one of the big things they showed is her unbraiding her hair, which I took, at least anyway, as a huge violation of her core being, because it's such a big sign of her womanhood in the Two Rivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my youngest daughter asked, Mom, why are they doing this? Like, why are they scrubbing her down? And I said, I think it's supposed to be a little bit symbolic of scrubbing her of the filth that is her ability to channel. They're cleansing her. They're cleaning her to make her worthy of being in the presence of Aemon Velda. And I think that's how I described it to them. And they kind of cringed, but it made sense thematically to them when put in that way.
And, I mean, Velda's just... I get nothing but great things to say about the actor. He's, horrible person, horrible character on screen, but done so well. He's so evil.
The actor is phenomenal. He is so talented. I'm telling you, he's got some great guns. I would love to sit down with him and talk arm routine, because the man has got some beautiful guns. He really does. Tickets to the gun show.
When he had the shirt off, I was like, well, I don't look like that.
I was like, hell, maybe he just put them in some kind of body lock and cut off their hands. Everybody's so worried about how he's getting the Aes Sedai. It's like, do you see that muscle?
Yeah, you just hold him down. He got that.
He's just holding him down, yeah.
So the second part of that scene that was a little horrifying was other than the fact that they're both restrained. So Egwene is tied to a chair, and it's very obvious that chair is used to chop off Aes Sedai hands, which is...
Yes, the blood on the ropes. Yeah. I caught that the second time around watching the episode. The
score marks on the handles, like on the chair, like where the arms go, the armrests, the score marks from axes that was gross.
That was gross.
But then Perrin, poor Perrin, I felt bad for him.
It was so sad. I mean, Perrin's whole arc up until this point has been so traumatic and sad. And when he unburdened himself by confessing to Egwene that he was in fact physically responsible for killing Layla, I mean, my heart just broke. And what a phenomenal performance by Marcus in that moment. Yeah. I mean, he hit really bringing it. Everybody, just the casting is so great.
Oh, I loved it. And the fact that they were both basically lobbying for themselves to die so the other could live. Oof,
I know.
That was heart-wrenching. And then when they were cutting him up in the blood, and it wasn't, like we said earlier, it wasn't super gory. It wasn't like Saw level or anything like that, but it was just the fact that it was deliberate and slow and calm. I think that
you
made
really
it worse.
Feel for Perrin in those moments. And again, I think that's a testament to Marcus's acting. He acts it so well. And, I was more upset by emotionally what he was going through and feeling helpless in being able to protect Egwene, because he, in his mind, he's thinking, I failed to protect Layla. I'm in fact responsible for the death of Layla. And now I am failing to protect Egwene. And I think he did such a great job playing that aspect of the character. It was truly heart-wrenching. It
was. Then we had, after that, there was, like we said, the rest of the episode pretty much, other than the scenes with Rand, all centered around loss. So Stefan had lost his Aes Sedai, and it was a lot of talking, it was a lot of explaining, it was a lot of powerful emotional scenes. So, again, if you haven't had conversations about loss and death, it's difficult to watch with younger children, I feel anyway. But then you had the actual scenes where Lan stayed with him at night, and Lan was on suicide watch. That's essentially what he was doing. He was there just to make sure Stefan didn't hurt himself, because he understood what went on.
Yes.
And then when Stefan drugged him, as soon as he woke up with the cup in his hands, I was like, I know where this went.
Yes, Nynaeve's little packet of tea there, sleepy time tea. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so then you get to
also
see...
Also worth mentioning, I don't think we talked about this last time, but this is at least my kids' first introduction to seeing and understanding polyamorous relationships. That's not something I've really ever talked to them about. They've seen and heard about gay relationships. We're very open in this house, very loving in this house towards all kinds. And so they absolutely have no issues whatsoever with that. It doesn't strike them as strange. And so they did ask a little bit when they were talking about Stefan joining Alana in her warders. And I explained to them they're in a polyamorous relationship. They're all in a relationship together with each other. It's just a different type of lifestyle than what you live with. But as long as it's loving and consensual, that's all that matters. So if your kids aren't familiar with that, it might be worth having a discussion with them about it, or be prepared for them to.
Yeah, they may ask. I mean, and I think we're going to see those themes throughout the rest. I mean, of course, especially considering one of the core themes of the books is Rand and his his three loves, Min, Lane, and did I give the first two books a spoiler warning? Yeah, I did. So
You did. You did.
I won't say the third name. I won't say the third name.
And
then.
the other one.
And the other one, yes. But how he deals with that, a lot of it's emotional, and you get to see that throughout the book series, and how that interacts. So that definitely is going to be a conversation that comes up again, I believe.
Yes.
But then we get to see actual Stefan's body, which heart wrenching to see Lan come across his friend, and it was hard to see because I have dealt with that personally in my life, and I'm sure you have, and everyone has some sort of story. So if you have some sort of personal connection with suicide or death, the emotions they show on the screen are very apt. They're spot on, and it does tug at your heartstrings quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be an appropriate use of the word triggering if you have any history of a loved one who has committed suicide. Certainly, if you found a body, I mean, be aware that these are very heavy themes and things that are happening in the show, and beautifully acted, not done gratuitously, not done for shock value, but I think it was a really magnificent way to show the connection of the Warder and Aes Sedai bond, which is, of course, if you've read through the books, it's going to play strongly into many, many events that happen in the future. And I think this was a very clever, albeit heart-wrenching, sad way to show just the gravity of that bond, the severity of what happens when it's lost.
And I think I mentioned this in my last video and on Twitter too. Is me and my wife are big K-drama fans, so we watch a lot of K-dramas and foreign media and stuff. And the way they showcased all this seemed to be almost cut right from the cloth of a really emotional K-drama. So it was really, really done well, and like you said, not for shock value at all. Yeah. No. All right, so that's pretty much all we have for the episode. So again, there is the violation scene, the torture scene, the fact that they're both talking about dying for one another. Then there's themes of loss, death, suicide throughout the entire episode. So if those are things that make you uncomfortable, maybe have the conversation first before you watch the episode, or at least watch it yourself.
Yes.
Any last thoughts before we go, Michaela?
I think the show is getting better and better with every single episode. I can't wait to see where it goes. I will say, I think if your kids have watched the first couple of episodes and they were okay, they're probably going to remain okay. So far, at least from what I have seen, I don't think there has been an escalation of any of the themes we've initially talked about.
All right, very good. All right, well, thank you all so very, very much for sticking with us here to the very end, and here's to many more.